go back, and then we'll come back up to Claire.
Kenny Bruce with SceneDaily.com. Joe, given M&M's position on the situation, why do you feel like Interstate was willing to step in and put their brand on the car this weekend? And also, were there any conversations between JGR and M&M's about possibly moving the sponsorship to another team?
No, there's been no discussion about, like we said, in 2012, I think Mars, Kyle, all of us at our race team want to be together. And moving forward, there's been no discussion about that. I think as far as Interstate, it was just one of those things where, in the discussions, they felt like it was something they would like to do, and it was nothing other than that. It was just as we discussed it as partners, all three of us.
Okay, Reed Spencer, then we'll go come to Clark.
Reed Spencer with Sporting News. For Coach first, one of the things that hasn't been addressed in the release yet is the report that Z-Line wanted Denny in the car for the last nationwide race. How does that affect Kyle going forward with Z-Line next year? And for Kyle, are you frankly surprised at the level of the backlash that has occurred from this, and do you think you understand why that occurred?
I think, first of all, on the Z-Line discussion, we kind of felt like as a race team, I'd take the responsibility for a lot of that, because we were kind of wanting to go for the next two races, let Kyle focus on Cup. And so a lot of that came from the race team with Z-Line. And so in a lot of ways, a lot of those, questions and everything should have been, directed at us. We appreciate those guys. They've been awesome. So that was probably more of a race team decision. In talking with Kyle, too, we talked it over and said, hey, look, we'd like to spend the next 2 weeks, because we knew there was going to be a lot of attention, and let him focus on Cup.
Yeah, and certainly, your question in regards to the backlash and the consequences and everything, understandably so. Yeah, there's been a lot of upset people, and that's to be understood for the actions that I made, and I made a decision on. But like I said, it's certainly a way to learn from and to understand and to grow and to move on.
Claire B.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. For Kyle, was there a point that you actually thought that you would lose your job, your ride? Much of that was talked about, and was that actually a real possibility? And for Joe, how much does Kyle have to change? Obviously, what happened was uncalled for, but some like his edginess. Are we going to see a different Kyle Busch that has to change totally, and can he keep the edge?
What was the first part? I'm sorry, Claire. What was the first part?
Did you actually feel like you were going to lose that ride, and how did that feel? Was that a real possibility?
Yeah. Obviously, emotions run high, and I think emotions ran high on everyone this week, including myself, which obviously started the whole ordeal. And for me, when you sit back and reflect and think about everything, and you're sitting there on the sidelines on Saturday, you're sitting there watching your car race on Sunday, that's a huge deal. That's a huge disappointment to not only myself, but more importantly to my team. All these guys at Joe Gibbs Racing that had nothing to do with Friday night, I feel a tremendous amount of remorse for, and so I've got to gain their respect back. Was there a point in which I thought, do I have a ride? Of course there was. Yeah, I thought that. Was there a point in which Joe ever told me that, hey, we're looking at terminating this? No. Joe has been there and has stuck by my side and has held my arm through this whole deal. And I can't say enough about the man sitting next to me.
Basically for us, JD, myself, our whole management team, we were kind of there and kind of walked through this with Kyle. We saw him and Samantha and all the things that we went through at Texas and everything else. And I think that, I think we see that. It's an emotional thing. We know where his heart is. And, I think we were there to, realizing that we got a lot of people that count on us, and we wanted to walk through this with Kyle, and we feel like that our stand was, we think Kyle can be a special person and a special athlete, and we're committed, and like I said, we spent the last year kind of going through some things, and I think they've been where Kyle has really stepped up and matured in a lot of ways.
Okay, I think we're
Kyle, Tom.
starting to get up against it on time, but we're going to go back here and see if we can get a couple more in.
Kyle, Tom Jensen, Speed.com. Over the last 3 years with NASCAR Boys Have At It, there's been increasingly aggressive driving. Carl Edwards got put on his roof at Atlanta. Martinsville was like a war zone. Were you surprised at NASCAR's reaction, number one? And number two, do you think for all the drivers there needs to be a clearer definition or any definition of where the lines are for what's acceptable and what isn't on retaliation?
I wasn't surprised at NASCAR's reaction. I felt like it was a decision that they needed to make, and I respect that decision, and I took the consequences and the repercussions of that, and we're still dealing with them today, and we'll still deal with them for a while. There's no question. In regards to whether or not there's a clear, defined line, no, there's not. Will there ever be? No. I think this sport has been driven for so many years off that rule book and how to find the gray area. And the gray area with the crew chiefs, with car chiefs, with our body hangers back at the shop, trying to figure out exactly how far we can go. You go that far and you push the envelope, and sometimes you get slapped, and or maybe a little bit worse than that. And I think that we saw that this past weekend. And whether all the drivers want a clear, defined line, I don't know that we'll ever see that. So it's just, you got to be smarter. I certainly was not smart in my actions on Friday night, and I get that. And so for me, the decision needs to be different come next time around in the heat of the moment. And sometimes, it's like, when you're that close to fire, are you just going to stay warm, or are you going to get burned by it? And obviously, this week I definitely got burned by my own fire.
Okay, back to Jim back there, and then David.
Jim Uttershaw, Observer. Quick question for Joe, a quick question for Kyle. Joe, aside from next week's race at Homestead, next season, does anything that's transpired from this incident affect the number or the ability of Kyle to drive in nationwide and truck races next season?
I think as far as Kyle's schedule is something we've talked about, and we're going to continue to work our way through that. Kyle has 40-something people working over there. We have a large number of our race team is devoted to nationwide. And so I think that's something that we'll just continue to work through. That's one of the issues we talked about that we'll continue to look at and discuss and work through with Kyle.
And Kyle, I know you said you haven't been following Twitter, but there is a large segment of your fans who have been supportive of you during this incident. Just your thoughts on how what you think you have to do to kind of that when you talk to them in the coming weeks or see them at how do you kind of reconnect with your fans after this incident?
That's something else that may be in the process down the line on how to reconnect with the fans and get have them have a better understanding of who I am. But certainly I do appreciate any of the fan support that has been out there. I hope people, whether it be Twitter or wherever, do recognize that it's not in my best mindset to be on there reading all whether they're positive or negative comments. So for me, I appreciate my fan base, and I know that they're out there. I know that there's whether it's small or whether it's large, there's a legion of fans that do support Kyle Busch and do support M&M's, Interstate Batteries, Toyota, Joe Gibbs Racing, all the folks in regards to all that. So, for me, it's something that, I've come into the sport when I was 18 years old. At 16, got booted, came back when I was 18. And, it's been a struggle for me since that day. And certainly I've gained a bit of a fan base, and I've upset some people in this past week, sure. But I'm here to do the best I can of my ability with the leadership of Joe and JD that we've already shown through this year, and we'll continue to show in the future that we want to be around here for a long time.
Okay, I'm afraid we're up against time here, David. You got
David
last
Newton,
question.
ESPN.com. Just for Joe, kind of 3 parts here. First, you guys had contacted Amarillo about possibly taking Kyle's place. Right. How close were you to actually pulling him out of the Cup car? Second, will anger management be a part of his rehab, if you want to call it, like you did with Tony years ago?
Yeah.
And third, image conscious. Does this give another reason on how big image is in this sport and all sports?
Right. Yeah, and we pride ourselves on that. We want to have the right image, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we keep that or reinstate that or whatever we got to do. As far as Eric goes, there were so many things going on at the first part of the week and on the weekend about how far the suspension from NASCAR was going to go to the trucks have to leave early because they're going all the way to Phoenix, and all the preparations you had to make. There were a lot of moving parts, and so as a part of that, we were trying to anticipate any and everything, and so we just simply said to Eric to check with him to see if he would be available. But that never became a real possibility, and we're happy to be where we are here today. Yeah, I think that would be something we continue to work through, and one of the topics that, Kyle and ourselves and the race team and everybody will continue to work on, and we're going to set out to do whatever we think is best going forward.
Okay, I appreciate everybody's time. I know we're running into the next press conference, and we got to get Kyle prepared for practice. I think we'll step outside with Coach for a couple minutes if anybody has a follow-up for him. But otherwise, appreciate everybody coming out.
Thank you.